All right, so we are back. A&J Sports, A&J
Oh,
First Take. We're here. NBA Finals start tomorrow, so we've missed a lot of time. A lot of current events and stuff have passed, but we're gonna recap the playoffs, these conference finals matchups, and talk about the finals. Give you guys our takes on that. So yeah,
oh
we'll
yeah.
we'll get into it. Starting off with the Western
Kick it off.
Conference. Yeah, what do you think about this series, Ant versus Aura? How do you feel
That
about how
was
this
a
game went? How the
it.
series went?
Honestly, had high expectations the series, but it fell through right after like games one and two ended. After game two, and it was 2-0. I think everyone knew Oklahoma City was going to win. Even after Minnesota won game three, it was still like they need to win another or it's over. And OKC kind of put their foot down and won 4-1. So like I think this is two straight years now where the Timberwolves won one conference final game and lost 4-1, which kind of says something about their team. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, we talked about this before. I was very adamant about this, with people who I communicated about it with. I thought the Wolves were going to make it to the finals. I was.
Yeah,
We'll get into the Eastern Conference in a second, but I was aiming for the Wolves to make it out of the West. That was my prediction.
same.
Um, Not because I didn't think OKC was talented enough, but I felt like they were going to have some of that like Boston syndrome of just like they haven't gotten over the hump yet. They haven't really faced that adversity, and we saw in that Denver series them start to wobble a bit, which
Yeah,
in hindsight is maybe just that's how good Jokic is that he was able to almost bring down this
beat them
team
by
that
himself.
yeah, like he almost brought this team down because yeah, Minnesota was not equipped to deal with OKC at
Not at all.
all. To be fair, I don't think many teams have been equipped to deal with OKC. I mean, they only lost 14
No.
games in the regular season, so it's not like many teams have been able to figure them out. But I was definitely hoping for, or not hoping for, just I think with Anthony Edwards, there's this idea that he's going to be this next star of the league and the face of things. So this
Exactly.
series, I think people thought last offseason was maybe the launching off point for that. It wasn't. People thinking maybe this season, okay, maybe it's that. It isn't. Um, and SGA and this OKC's team, making it to their first finals. What's really, really scary to me about this, though, is that, I
So
mean,
young.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know when, I think the second apron and stuff, that'll have impacts on them, but when are they not? Who in the West is close to them right now?
At this point, no one even put up a fight against them this year. Like I mean, Denver obviously took them to seven, but they that game seven was a blowout. And I don't think Denver really gets that much better next year to the point where they could beat this team. I I really don't know who takes them down next year or in any future year coming up. Like this, some team would have to make a really big splash. Like I think if the Timberwolves maybe picked up KD or someone like that, or a Warriors team picked up a few more big pieces, like that should be a team that's really close. Like if Denver again, another team pretty close, they got a huge piece. That's the only chance. But realistically, I don't think a team's catching them for the next few years in the West. The way this looks, it's looking slim. Also, I do think they shut down Anthony Edwards really well. Like I think that dude, he had two or three good games, but other than that, they shut him down, and it's scary because the the Thunder don't have like huge big name players. It's just Chet, Shea, Jalen Williams, and then just a ton of role players, which they're all really good, but it's just shocking to me that they're already in the finals with this
I
young of a team.
I have a question for you about this. Do you think that this series, or just this series, the Western Conference, do you think it is more? Do you think it was more about OKC, like just the gap that they have in talent being that much, just further ahead of the rest of the conference, or do you think it's just the Wolves fell short and maybe people were overestimating Anthony Edwards and this unit? Not that they're a bad team, but I mean they weren't the highest. They what seed were they coming out? Like they
They're a
were a
six
low.
seed.
Yeah, it's like they were a
Yeah.
lower seed. Anthony Edwards is the best player, but Randall hasn't been that big of a star elsewhere.
No.
People have exposed Gobert before. The
Yeah.
you could argue that Minnesota's team maybe just isn't as good. Like shouldn't have done better than what they did
Yeah.
against OKC.
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's mostly just very matchup dependent. Like I think the Timberwolves, they played the Warriors and the Lakers, and they killed both those teams, and it wasn't really good matchups at all. But I do think if a team like the Warriors, a healthy Warriors or healthy Lakers, played the Thunder, I think they could have taken them 6 or 7. I think
Mm.
that the Timberwolves just don't match up well with a young Thunder team, especially like the Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle. I think really hurts them. Like they're two slower players that need time with the ball. Like they're not just gonna get you a bucket very easily. Like they'll take their time, and this defense, the Thunder defense, pounces on any mistake you make, and Timberwolves just made way too many. But I do think like again, I don't think it's like it's definitely they have a gap over the rest of the West, but I do think if a team has the right pieces, like I think the Warriors could have put a fight in them with a healthy Curry, healthy Jimmy Butler,
Mm.
Draymond. I think the Lakers could have too. I think there are certain teams that could, but right now that gap is if they win it all this year, that gap is just going to continue to go up, and it's scary for the West. Yeah, the whole league, honestly. Should we get into the East? Your favorite?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, just the way that you were talking about, I think there were so many parallels between these two series. I think, you know, the next series, obviously it went one game further, to game six, but how you were describing, OKC just being younger, the primary players on Minnesota can, similar to the Knicks, taking a lot of time off of the clock and needing a lot of time to get those buckets.
Yeah,
Um, and then the younger, quicker team seizing on the mistakes of the other team, like that is what carried Indiana past us this series. And it was so, I mean, game one and game two, I think really sold the series for us more than anything. That first game
game
was
one for
arguably the
sure.
best game that we played up until Aaron Neesmith, went off at the end. Halliburton makes the
Lucky
crazy
shot.
shot. We go to overtime and we end up losing. Um, and then after that, Siakam dropping 40 something on us in the next game. It was just those first two games, I think really, it was too much to come back from. And it was,
Yeah,
I think even that we put up a good fight at the end. As a Knicks fan, I'm biased. I feel like we were the better team ultimately. Like, I still don't feel like the Pacers are better than us. But
yeah,
like you were just talking about, it comes down to matchups, kind of. And the Pacers, they match up against us in a way where they are way faster. They are, a way better shooting team. And, they were able to just capitalize on our mistakes in a way that we weren't able to, compensate for. So it was really frustrating to watch as a Knicks fan. Um, we're recording this today. Thibodeau just got fired earlier this morning, so more changes I'm sure to come this offseason to retool this team because the Pacers exposed us. I mean,
yeah.
as much as I want to be like rah rah Knicks fan right now, like Pacers exposed us. I think Halliburton isn't very good,
No,
or like I don't think he's a championship caliber like 1A player. I
yeah,
I don't see him. I don't see the Pacers doing a lot in the finals, but they were able to be better than this Knicks team and like pretty definitively and clearly. I don't think this series definitely didn't go the way that I thought it was going to going into it.
no, for real. The crazy part to me, like to exactly what you were saying, like they don't have many star players. Like if you go back on the series and think who are the top 5 players in this series, I'd probably go Brunson, Cat. I think the only Pacers player that falls in the top 5 is Siakam at like 3, and then I'd go OG and McHale like 4 or 5. Like I don't think Tyrese might be around 5, might be below. I think he's kind of below OG and McHale in terms of skill and like where he's at, but I realistically think that you guys have 4 of the top 5 players in this series, which is just like why, as you feel like it's tough. Like you should have won this series. I do think that game one, like blow up by the Pacers was it really killed the momentum you guys had, and like you guys came off beating the Celtics. You guys were hot. You were feeling good. If you had a 1-0 advantage at home, game two looks very different. Game three, game four, like blowing a 20-point lead in like 3 minutes has got to be a killer for your morale. Like I can't even imagine what they were thinking. But like, so back to your point though, what do you think? Like you said, they're kind of the Knicks have some room to kind of make up that gap. what do you think they need to do this offseason?
I mean, I think it comes down to the depth. And my one thought throughout this series and like a lot of the playoffs, even the regular season was like, I wish I had Dante DiVincenzo on my bench right now. Like I, Cat is a great player. The thing, like having a 7 footer who can do the things that he does is crazy, and it's like it's an element that you really can't. There's a really small amount of players who have that ability. Having him and Brunson and like I think a lot of that core, the 4 players you mentioned, him, Brunson, OG, Mikal, I like all of those players. And against Boston, we saw the full effect of that
They
team.
match up very well.
I think this team was built to beat Boston, and it beat
Yeah,
Boston. You could say whatever you want about the Jason Tatum injury. We were
100%.
winning that series. We were winning that series. It's like I really don't care. We were going to win. We
In
were
that
beating
game
Boston.
too.
Yeah, we were going to go up 3-1 against Boston before he got injured. They got another one. We would like I feel comfortable in saying that we would have won that series anyway at that point. Um, so yeah, I think we were built to beat that team, but we're not built for this, you know, faster paced 3-point shooting, more athletic team. We play a more slow, Thibodeau, like kind of more like vintage style of play where it is slower and it's, a lot less of that 3-point shooting. It's funneling it through, our top players a lot more directly. I think it changes the dynamic of the team. And then trading for Cat, losing Randall and DiVincenzo, it really did strip our bench of a lot of the losing Hartenstein over the offseason as well. It should,
That
our bench lost a lot of its gusto. So I think that, someone's going to have to get moved to make room for that depth. I think Josh Hart is like top of that list for me just because he's making a lot of money and, you know,
yeah.
he's in terms of money made to expendability. I think he's the best, the most tradable out of those. I think
Totally.
behind that, you get into Mikal or OG. If you're trading Cat again, I think then you got to be you're not. That's not a linear move. If you're doing that, it's got to be for Giannis or some. You have to have something that's
A
you
top
know
5-10 player at
yeah, it's
least.
like you got to have something significant that you're getting back for that in terms of immediate talent.
Yeah,
But I think the team
totally.
is the talent is there. The core of the talent is there. Sad to see Thibodeau go because I think he was a lot of the identity of this team. But the Pacers won. It's like at the end of the day, they were the better team last season. I think a lot of our gripes were that the team was injured. Pretty much going into that series, we were healthy
Yeah.
here and they beat us again. So yeah, that's
And it's a
frustrating
better
to
Knicks
watch.
team too. That's the crazy
Yes.
part. Yeah, really the same Pacers team too. It's not like they really changed their
Yeah,
team
no,
much
their
from
team's
last
the
year.
same.
It's just crazy to think about. The whole NBA, like I can't really wrap my head around if this is a movement where faster paced teams with more depth are taking over the league with the Pacers and Thunder, or if it's just like that's what you needed this year. Like it's so hard to tell. Do you have any insight there?
I mean, I do think that is start of. I think that's where the league is going. Just more of that like positionless basketball, having guys who can defend multiple positions and do all these things. So I think that is. I do think that's the direction of the league to an extent. Um, but I don't think you need to be. I mean, I think the success of the Knicks this season kind of proved that there are other things you can do. I think you know I don't think that the traditional like because pretty much like their whole a lot of Indiana's game is like operating without a traditional big man. Like Miles Turner is like their traditional
He's a
big man, I
stretch
guess.
four
But
kind of
yeah,
stretch
it's like
five.
it's like for some teams he could be a stretch four. He's not as big as Cat or Mitchell Robinson
Yeah,
nearly. Like he's the same size as Siakam, who is a stretch
yeah,
four. So it's like
exactly.
it's a different type of game that they're playing. I think that it's just going to depend. I think teams are just going to have to be intentional about how they build themselves out. Not to say that they aren't already, but like you're going to need to, if you're going to have a Cat, or a Jokic, or a Giannis, you're going to need to make sure that there is a lot of shooting around those guys because
hundred
if
percent.
you're not, you're going to run into these teams like the Pacers, and it's going to be an issue. And you're not going to be able to match the runs that they match. You're not going to be able to score, 15 points in 2.5 minutes. It's like you're not going to be able
Literally.
to explode offensively in the same way some of these other teams are able to. And like it showed game over game
Yeah.
against the Pacers, and really throughout the whole playoffs too. Even against the
Told
Celtics, like it was
we could
we had to grind through every series to get to where we
for
were
real.
at. So it was,
Even
I
the
think,
Pistons series too. Like that wasn't an easy one. That was
yeah,
a tough one. It's crazy looking back at the whole bracket. Like I think it's like just to my point with like how the Thunder had a great matchup against the Timberwolves. I think it's very matchup dependent the playoffs. Like I think if the Celtics, let's say you guys were the 4 seed, the Pacers were the 3 seed. I think the Celtics, assuming Tatum stays healthy, Celtics could have beat the Pacers. And then who knows? You play the Celtics in the conference finals, you beat
yeah,
them already. So like I think it's really dependent. I think it came down to like 2 or 3 games too, like Pacers Knicks for the 3-4 seed. If that flipped, we're maybe looking at a completely different Eastern Conference
it's true.
finals and bracket. Like same with the Cavaliers too. I think the Cavs could have beat the Celtics. I think they could have beat. I don't think they could have beat you. I think they could have beat pretty much any other team besides the Pacers, Knicks. Yeah, really just those 2 teams. But they, the Cavs are kind of screwed. But anyways, that's a whole other topic.
I have a
Any sort,
question.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
sorry, I
go
was
ahead.
going to say question for you. Do you? Because I mean, the Pacers. This is back-to-back years that they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Jason Tatum's injured next year, so that kind of eliminates the Celtics from the equation. You think, in terms of like that that list of top contenders. Do you think the Pacers make it back here next season? Like at this point, because it's like, we can be skeptical
That's a
of
great
them. I'm
question.
as skeptical of the Pacers of anyone, but they've made it back to back years, and the East is only going to get more open next year in theory.
Literally,
Giannis maybe gets moved. We don't know what's going to happen with Cleveland either. Maybe they get broken up in some way. You know,
yeah.
their only competition, their biggest competition
Is
on
you
paper,
guys?
you think is going to be a Knicks team that they've already beaten back to back years. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. What do you think about just the landscape of the East next year, and same thing with the West as well? I mean, I think we assume we might have a similar answer on the West, but we'll
Yeah.
start with the East.
I think with the East, when you think about it like that, like there's really not many teams I think that will get that much better. Like I think the Pistons, the Magic, they're young, so they're going to get better. Other than that, like Pacers, they're a young team, so they're going to continue to get better. Like it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't see them at least making the conference finals. Like with how open the East is, like their real only competition is going to be you guys, maybe the Cavs. I think it's really just putting together a good regular season and ending up in a 1, 2, 3 seed rather than I feel like they've had historically like the last 5 years or so like 4 to 8 seed range, and that you're never going to do anything in the playoffs like that. But if they can finish the regular season top 3, I don't really know who stops them. Like unless you two run into each other in the second round, but I feel like they're bound to at least make it back. And it's kind of crazy. They don't have a star. Like they really don't. And they're making this team look they look flawless. Like they look like they lost what? 4 playoff games. The whole East. That's crazy. Like same with the Thunder too. I think they lost 4 too. So like
Yeah,
it's hard to say. I think the West is going to retool a lot. Like I think a lot of teams are going to change. There's a lot of teams that are right on the bubble, like the Mavs. That like I think they could get a lot better this offseason with Cooper Flag, with other pieces. I think the Lakers are going to finally build a team the right way with getting centers around Luka that could set picks, get them alley oop chances. Same with the Rockets. They had a crazy year. They're going to keep getting better. And then there's still teams like the Suns that, like, I mean, they as of now they have Booker and KD. Like, you can never count those two out. I mean, the last 2 years you can, but I mean, I think KD is probably going to get moved, but it's really where KD goes. Like, if KD ends up on the Rockets, I think they could beat the Thunder. Like, there's a lot of teams and a lot of places that, a lot of things that can just change in general that really changes the landscape of the West. But I really don't think, even if Giannis got traded to you guys, I don't think, and I think that's the scariest place he could go as a Pacer. I'm not a Pacers fan. As a Pacers fan, I would be scared of him going to the Knicks. Obviously, Celtics too, but he's not going to go there. I would be scared of that, but realistically, he's not going to go there. He's going to go to like a Raptors. He's going to go to a Nets. a young team, maybe even a Spurs.
Mhm.
Um, so I really, if I had to guess right now, I would say the Pacers are a better pick to make it back to the NBA Finals just because of how empty the East is.
Mhm.
But I do think the Thunder, they should at least make the. I think Thunder have a better chance to make the Western Conference Finals than the East than the Pacers in the East. I don't know. It's just so wide open in the West. It's scary. What do you kind of think if you had to guess? I know this is way too early, but if you had to pick the finals for next year, you could say like, hey, I think KD goes to the Spurs and they become a dynasty. Like, assuming predictions and off-season summer stuff, what do you think if you had to guess right now? What do you think the finals are next year?
I do think the biggest thing. I think Giannis is going to be the decision maker. Honestly,
Yeah.
I see Giannis going to the West. I don't really think I don't think there are enough teams. I don't think there are any teams in the East that really have the capital to make that trade. I mean, like maybe Milwaukee or maybe the Magic, maybe Detroit, but I don't see. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't see those happening. I think he's going to end up in Texas. I think it's either going to be Houston or San Antonio.
Dallas.
Um,
Oh yeah.
or I mean, maybe Dallas, but if I don't see if Dallas
They'd
were
have to
to,
ship Vlad.
yeah, they would have to trade the number one pick, and I don't think they're going to do
Yeah.
that. But either way, I see him in Texas, and I think if
Yeah.
he ends up on either Houston or the Spurs, I think that team is going to be good enough to challenge this Thunder team. So I agree with your
Oh yeah.
idea of there are going to be teams in the West that retool. Um, I'm still going to go with the Thunder um,
Yeah.
making it to the finals again in the West, just because I think there's so much to that getting experience, like getting there the first time, and they've gotten over the hump. They've gotten there. We'll get into our predictions after this, but they get the championship after this season. Like that's really gonna, you know,
That's scary.
I think it is going to be really scary for the league. What the Thunder might be able to do over these next couple of years, especially with the picks that they have and how young they are as a team as well. So,
Yeah.
I think OKC might have the West on lock for a little bit.
I could see that.
Indiana, I honestly just don't think are that. I think it comes down to Carlisle's coaching. I think that
Yeah.
I think they may be the best coach team in the league. Not to say that they aren't. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
have talented players, but I
That's
think they are.
honestly yeah.
I think they are incredibly coached. Um, and I don't think that. I think that the teams in the East that I think that they exposed enough people this offseason to where things are going to shift. It's like,
Yeah.
people were aiming for the Celtics. We
Yep.
retooled to get to the Celtics. We were able to beat them. Now people are going to be aiming for the Pacers. It's like this is back to
Yeah.
back years that they've made it. They've beaten Cleveland. They've beaten us. It's like they've beaten
Yeah.
Milwaukee. So now teams are going to be looking to mold themselves around how to beat them. And I think
100%.
that's going to be, I think that's something that can be achieved. Whether or not it's the Knicks or someone else, I don't know. I think there will be more moves beyond Giannis
Yeah.
that happen. I think he'll be the most significant one, but I see some of these other teams getting broken up a little bit.
Totally.
And yeah, and I think that things are going to end up shaking out so that the Pacers don't end up making it next year because I'm assuming
Yeah.
they'll probably have a fairly similar roster to what they have right now.
It should be. They could even lose some players too.
I was like,
I don't see them
imagine
making the team better though. Like they
I was
really
like,
can't.
imagine they get Giannis. We're talking about that.
If they get Giannis, I don't even know what to say. That just changes everything. But yeah, I mean, I think our titles for this is perfect. Like the Wild West. I mean, Thunder didn't make it so wild. They just kind of swept right through it. Besides the Nugget series and then the Easy East, like honestly, I think if the Pistons beat you guys, they could have even made the conference finals. If the Cavs
Maybe.
beat the Pacers, they could have easily made the NBA finals. Like I do think it's really wide open the East. That is the one thing. Um, but yeah, let's get into. Should we get into our predictions?
Yeah.
Go through those. No surprises here, I don't think. Both of us picked OKC. I think that's obviously the safe bet. But you went 4-1. I went 4-2. If you had to guess, which game do they win? The Pacers. Game 3, game 4.
I think they can. I think they'll win a game in OKC. I could see them getting.
Okay.
I could see them getting game two. I don't think they win game one, um,
Yeah.
but I could see them getting game two. Like
Yeah.
they're a defiant team. Um,
They're feisty.
yeah, and they're feisty. So I could see them, you know, maybe game one is close for a little bit, and OKC pulls away. Um, but I see them winning. I see them winning game two. Um, but
Yeah.
then that shifts OKC into gear, and they handle them in
The next
Indiana, and
three.
then handle them in OKC as well. I think. I mean, I think Indiana does. They have a shot. So I think their shot is going to be taking home court away from
They
them. Like
have
they
to.
can.
They have
Yeah.
to.
I think that's going to be their biggest thing. I think you were really, when you were talking about the OKC Minnesota series earlier, like I think Indiana's just a light version of OKC in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. It's like they have a lot of the
Yeah.
same positionless play and, good depth and young players. And, you could say Halliburton and SGA are like the equivalents there, I guess. Um, but it's
I
like
mean,
SGA's the
Tyrese will never get
MVP, and
MVP.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why it's like it's
He
a
could even get Eastern
very
Conference Finals MVP.
yeah, it's
So
like it's a very light version of what OKC is running. Everything that
yeah.
OKC has on their roster on paper is a level or two or three above
Yeah.
what Indiana has. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you see this series going? Because you're saying Indiana has two games.
I honestly think pretty similar to you. I think game two, I think OKC takes game one. I think they just handle it. Game two, I could see the Pacers fighting back. I mean, they haven't lost back to back playoff games this playoffs yet. So I could see them winning game two. And then I think Thunder fight back, take game three. And I think game four, again, up for grabs. I think Indiana could take it. I could also see OKC storming out to 3-1. And then with the Pacers with their backs against the wall, maybe taking another in OKC. But winning two in OKC would be tough. I think they take one at home, one in OKC, but not really sure their order. I do think the Pacers they match up. I don't want to say they match up well. They play very similarly, and I do think there is a chance they could play them well just because of how similar they play. And if you're just quicker than them, maybe you get them a game or two. But I don't see them taking three or more games like that. This OKC team is scary. They're not messing around. But yeah, it should be a good series. Hopefully, if not, OKC could just win in 4, 5. What I think 6 maybe, but realistically, I'd say 6 or less games for sure. I mean, that's not a hot take, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean I don't know how many. It was like, yeah, I can't imagine many people are predicting Indiana to win this series outside of Pacers fans.
no, literally.
Yeah, I mean, if the Pacers were to win, do you see? I mean, we'll get into some of our our predictions on the next slide, but do you see what do you think the Pacers' path is to winning this series if there is one realistically? I mean,
I think they have to take game one. Like if they take game one, like they did in New York, that changes the dynamic right away. And this OKC team, I don't think they've lost a game one yet. Oh, they lost game one to Denver, but that was a fluke loss where they missed 2 free throws, came down, Aaron Gordon hit that three to win. Like I think they have to do some shit like that, like the Nuggets did. They have to go down, steal game one, put up a fight in game two, maybe even take game two, and then win at least one of two at home. Like at least knock them out of home court advantage. Like that's their only chance, I really think. Like I think they need to win 2 to 3 of the first 4 games minimum. And they should have a shot. But who even knows? Like it could be 2-2, like it was in the Nugget series, and then OKC could just win the next two and end it. Like this OKC team is they're too good. I hate to say it. I just don't see them matching up. Like even like Chet, like I don't know if we go back and do what we did with like the Knicks Pacers series. The top 5 players in this series: Shea, Jalen Williams, Chet, Siakam, and then really up for grabs. Maybe Tyrese, just because OKC is all role players, but I don't even know. Like I even almost put Lou Dort over him. Maybe Caruso. Like it's
well,
not close.
I think the issue with Halliburton is that their games were there any given night he could be the best player on the court, you know.
Oh
But then there are games where he's going to be the 10th best player on the court and you don't see him
yeah,
and he
exactly.
doesn't have any impact. And that's like for, so when you compare him to someone like Lou Dort, it's like Lou Dort is always going to be the seventh or eighth best player. It's like you can consistently count on a level of impact from all of these guys across OKC's roster that it's like really the only really consistent guys for Indiana have been Siakam and like Nemhard. It's like those have
Yeah,
been the two most consistent guys, and those guys are
literally.
not they're not winning the championship. Like I think that's unless Halliburton will have to elevate his game to a level that he hasn't been able to do so
Yeah,
consistently. Like he dropped the 30-point triple double game against us or whatever. So it's like,
yeah.
all right, he's played at, a very high level in these playoffs, but can he sustain that over a
You
seven
do
game
that
series
every single game against OKC for them. I
against
have a
the
chance.
team that he's going to need to do that to win against? He had games where he disappeared and they still won. Like
Yeah,
he wasn't the reason that they won
that won't happen in this
most of
series.
those games. Yeah, like they're going to need him to succeed in order for them to win this series. And I really struggle to see, especially if they have Lou Dort and Jalen. I mean, every player who the Thunder have who would be guarding him is going to give him issues. Like I just
Oh,
don't
easily.
see. I don't see Halliburton having a fun time uh,
No,
going up
that's the
against
thing
OKC.
too. Like comparing SGA and Halliburton, a bad game for SGA is like 15 to 20 points. A decent to good game for Tyrese Halliburton is 15 to 20 games or 15 to 20 points. Like SGA is going to get you minimum 30. Most games he's going to get you minimum 30. Tyrese again, an exceptional game, he'll get you 30 and maybe like 10 assists. So it's really and like again, he's only done that like 2 or 3 times these playoffs. SGA does that every single game. Maybe 1 or 2 flukes where he missed it, but I just really don't think SGA even compares to Tyrese. Like I mean MVP, everything he does, like he SGA can get a triple double any night too. Like I think that's very underrated. He assists, gets a lot of assists, rebounds. Tyrese obviously he had one against you guys, but like that was he was the only one crashing the boards. I think the next closest rebounder was like Siakam with 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So again, I think Tyrese would have to play at that level, that 30 point triple double level every single game, and maybe they'll have a chance. But SGA has one of those games, they'll win by 40, 50. Like it won't even be close. All right, should we get into the MVP predictions?
Yeah.
All right, share why SGA is your safe pick.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The regular MVP. I mean, you just kind of explained it. He's guaranteeing you. I mean, he averaged what is that 30 plus pretty much during the regular
I think
season.
so. Yeah.
He's guaranteeing you those points. He's running that offense. I mean, for as many people, for whatever you want to say about him, not being the face of the league or maybe not having the charisma or whatever, like versus an Anthony Edwards, he shows everything on the court and has like led this OKC team to where they're at now, for all the other role players and stuff they have. I think that's really the biggest thing that sets them in Indiana apart. He is
Yeah.
clear and he is the number one option. He is the guy. Like they can rely on
It's
them.
him.
He can win them games. He has won them lots of games. And like it's something that really can't be, he is in an elite level of player. And I think especially just with his age, like if he decides to stay in OKC, they're going to be able to do this for a while with him. So
Easily.
yeah, if if and
It's
when OKC win this series, I think SGA's gotta be the MVP.
and that's the thing. I know you guys can see the bold guesses. You see my Caruso pick, and that's believe me, a flaming hot take. But if SGA doesn't win MVP, Finals MVP, assuming the Thunder win, and SGA doesn't win Finals MVP, that means that he like gets hurt or something crazy must have happened to him. Because I just don't see Indiana shutting him down. There's no way. He's going to average at least 25 a game. So that'll probably be the most points per game in the series easily by any player. But yeah, SGA far and away the safe pick. I think he's like minus 500 already to win NBA Finals MVP, 50 to win $10. I don't know how that's possible already, but That is. And then obviously we have our bold guesses. You want to share why you picked Siakam?
Yeah, I mean, just talking
Eastern
about
Conference Finals MVP Siakam, excuse me.
yeah, I mean, just talking about we were talking about the Pacers earlier and Halliburton. If I do think Halliburton will have to play well if the Pacers are to win this series. Um, but I don't think he's going to be the one who is really pushing them over. I think it would be Siakam. He's already won a championship. He, really dominated. If you look at the most dominant player in that Knicks series, um, outside of out of everyone on the Pacers, it was probably Siakam in terms of consistency. He had that 40+
Yeah.
point game in game two. Um, I think that he is a guy who's being that like stretch four. He is going to be in a position to thrive against some of these maybe undersized defenders, or bigger defenders who aren't as quick and athletic to guard him. I think he's a really unique kind of talent type of player. Like if Chet's guarding him, I see him giving Chet issues on offense. But if they put Lou Dort on him, like Lou Dort might be a little too small. So like maybe they put Jalen Williams on him or something like that. But still,
Yeah.
I think
Be a
Siakam.
mismatch.
I think Siakam creates mismatch opportunities, and I think that he would ultimately end up being the one who carried them to the finals or carried them to the championship if they were to win. So yeah, I still
Yeah.
think my hope and prayer is that the Pacers get swept, cleanly and just blown out every game. But if by some
As you
miracle they
should.
manage to win, I think it's going to come down to Siakam more than anyone else.
Yeah, he'll 100. I think either way, no matter how the series goes, he'll lead the Pacers in points per game. He should, even maybe rebounds. But yeah, so as you guys see, I picked Caruso. I see this as more of like an Andre Iguodala type Finals MVP, where it comes down to defense, and obviously Caruso's had a very gritty season where he's that guy that's going to dive after a steal, dive after a block, like make a gritty play. And I think if this goes 6 or 7 games and it comes down to like defense, which I don't think, not to take away anything from either of these defenses, I just don't think there are a ton of star defensive players on either of these teams. I think Caruso might be the best defensive player in this series. Like, and again, that's a hot take, but like he's kind of proved that he can put up 10 a game, get you a steal block. Like he can do those things that you need to win a championship. And really, I think SGA would have to have like a tough series for Caruso to win this. I think he'd have to average 15 to 20, and Caruso averages over 10 a game and gets at least a block or a steal a game. Like that's the only chance this happens, and he probably would still need to make like a Andre Iguodala type defensive. He would need to have an Andre Iguodala type defensive effort to win it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he's a little disrespected. Like I think he's a key piece of this team that got them over the hump clearly. I think he shouldn't be counted out as a Finals MVP candidate. Yeah, these are our picks. Definitely flame us on our bold guesses, but that's what we got. Anything else you want to share before we wrap this up?
No, just
See
I
what
hope the
happens.
Pacers get swept. They're not better than us. I don't think Halliburton's that good really. And yeah, we'll see how the finals will go. I think it's an exciting, this has been a great playoffs. I think even, as a, being upset with the outcome, personally, I think this has been a really exciting playoffs on both sides. So as a neutral,
Oh,
as a fan of the NBA, I think this has been a great year to check in.
totally. And we'll be back. We'll do some draft content. We'll do some. I mean, the lottery already happened, but we'll keep getting into our these episodes. Like, just stay tuned. All right. Awesome.